Shalom family, and welcome to our afternoon study. We are in the book of Numbers, and man, what a journey we've been on. And you know, it's y'all might hear me say that every week, but it's true. It's just so much that we're gaining and learning from going through Torah, you know, pulling out all of the things that are relevant to us and watching these words come alive right before our eyes, week after week after week. So we had been seeing and watching and understanding the movement of this nation. We've seen them go through many, many things through this book of Numbers. All of the challenges, all of the warfare, all of the rebellions, all of the fighting that that took place from without and within. And I think, you know, the within is the more alarming thing. And I think that we also have to be aware of that. Just because there's a smile and an amen doesn't mean that person is walking with Yah or has your best interest at hand. We don't need kind and smooth words. We need truth given by the Ruach and Yahuwah's word. So last week we looked at the dividing of the land, of the inheritances of the tribes, and we saw and witnessed an instance where a particular family lost their father, and this new generation had no inheritance because there were no sons. And we saw the daughters of Zelophehad make the plea, as June talked about earlier, to Moshe, who went to Yahuwah, who gave them this inheritance. And we watched and we walked through scripture, and we saw how this instance in Numbers had a direct movement of what happened with the birth of Messiah and his father Joseph and his mother Mary. Just as a recap. And you know, then we looked at the passing of the torch, where we see Joshua grabbing the baton, if you will, from Moshe, to carry on what Moses was not going to be able to do. So, you know, as we near the end and where, you know, we see Israel on the edge in the border of the promised land, we recognize and we realize that this is a completely new generation. Those numbers we went through, the counting of the nation of the tribes, these were all new numbers. None of them, except for Caleb and Joshua, were of the same count that we saw in the beginning. This was a completely new generation, and the generation that would be going into the promised land. So the offerings, the holidays, the holidays, set apart days, Moedims, all of these things are being reiterated to this new generation. These things were given to their parents, right? So now the father wants Moshe to reiterate these things to this new generation, so that they will be understood, right? So there will be no misunderstanding of what Yahuwah wanted from them in terms of instruction for everything through life, through the daily offerings, through the Sabbath offerings, the monthly offerings, and all of the feasts and Moedims. I didn't want these things to be lost. He didn't want them to be watered down or even contaminated with this new generation. So he set forth a clear instruction so they would understand that the blood was central to them, watch this, and to us, right? An innocent sacrifice that provides freedom, safety, and deliverance to them and to us. You know, it's important that we understand the centrality of the blood being what brings man and his sin back to a holy and righteous Elohim. So that being said, you know, let's get into what we've gone through before. This is a regurgitation of what is required, the offerings that are required during the time of them going into the promised land. So when they went in, they would know what to do. The daily ones. We're going to talk about the Sabbath ones, the monthly offerings, and then we're going to talk about the offerings of the feasts. Some of it I'm going to breeze through because it's just a recap. I'm going to slow down at Passover and talk about a few things, and then hopefully we can get into the vows in chapter 30. But right now we're in chapter 28. As we normally do, let's look at this and let's break it down in sections and read through. For the newcomers, a raise of the hand will get you an opportunity to read. Those that read have the first opportunity to share what they see, ask a question, or just simply expound on what stands out to them in the passage they just read. So chapter 28 of the book of Numbers, let's look at the first 8 verses. Let me see a hand for first reader. If not, I'll read. A lot of this is repetitious, so there's a lot of slaughtering going on here. I'll go ahead and kick it off. So chapter 28, verse 1 says, "Now Yahuwah spoke to Moses, saying, command the children of Israel and say to them, my offering, my food for my offerings, made by fire as a sweet aroma to me. You shall be careful to offer to me at their appointed time. And you shall say to them, this is the offering made by fire, which you shall offer to Yahuwah. 2 male lambs in their first year without blemish, day by day. As a regular burnt offering, the one lamb you shall offer in the morning, the other lamb you shall offer in the evening. And 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering mixed with 1/4 of a hin of pressed oil. It is a regular burnt offering which was ordained at Mount Sinai for a sweet aroma, an offering made by fire to Yahuwah. And its drink offering shall be 1/4 of a hin for each lamb in a holy place. You shall pour out the drink offering and you shall pour out the drink to Yahuwah as an offering. The other lamb you shall offer in the evening as the morning grain offering and its drink offering. You shall offer it as an offering made by fire, a sweet aroma to Yahuwah. So we see these are supposed to be the daily offerings, which we saw in Exodus 29. It's just again, a reiteration to this new generation of what was already given to the children of Israel. And in this particular passage, the word sweet, stood out to me. Sweet aroma. Sweet is the word nikoach or nikoach, which means a quieting, a soothing, tranquilizing, and even rest. This aroma will bring rest, will bring tranquility, will bring a soothing and a quieting to Yahuwah. This is what he is speaking of when he says a sweet aroma to his nostrils. And we see that, blood is required, for these offerings. The blood is what brought the peace, right? We have peace with Yahuwah through deliverance, through the blood. And we'll see that even more in regards to the Passover. So These were to be the daily offerings. We all good there? Self-explanatory, right? All right, let's move on. Verse 9, it says, and on the Sabbath day, 2 lambs in their first year without blemish, and 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering, mixed with oil and with its drink offering. This is the burnt offering every Sabbath, besides the regular burnt offering and its drink offering. So addition to the daily offerings, addition to the offerings for sacrifices, we also had a Sabbath offering when they go into the land. So again, reiteration of the instructions from Yah to the new generation. Verse 11, now going into the monthly offerings, and it says, at the beginning of your months, you shall present a burnt offering to Yahuah, 2 young bulls, 1 ram, 7 lambs in their first year without blemish, 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering, mixed with oil. For each bull, 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a grain offering, mixed with oil. For the 1 ram, and 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour, mixed with oil, as a grain offering for each lamb, as a burnt offering of a sweet aroma. There it is again, sweet aroma, peaceful, tranquility, aroma to Yahuah, an offering made by fire to Yahuah. Their drink offering shall be 1/2 of a hin of wine for a bull, 1/3 of a hin for a ram, 1/4 of a hin for a lamb. This is the burnt offering for each of the months throughout the months of the year. Also, 1 kid of the goats as a sin offering to Yahuah shall be offered besides a regular burnt offering and its drink offering. So a new moon, a new month. At the beginning, this was the sacrifice that was given. The hin is just a mention of the measurement of oil that will be used with the fine flour. And 2 things that I was looking at here. One was the offering, the drink offering. One says wine, but the other one doesn't. And I looked at both. The wine would have come from obviously the grapes, but the other drink offering, it appears to come from the grain, which would have been like some type of hops or brew. So interesting. I want to look into that more because it appears that it would have been like almost like a beer type of drink offering that was poured out, where the wine obviously is of the grapes. But again, I want to make sure before I say that emphatically, right? So now we go into the next section, which is Passover. And quite a few things I wanted to say about Passover as we're approaching it. So we have an understand. So when we say Passover, many things are, come to the forefront of your mind. Some people see a day, some people see a feast, some people see Yahuwah's Passover. What does that mean? So first, Passover, Yahuwah's Passover is the lamb, right? That's what Passover represents. When we look in Leviticus, which we'll read through in a minute, it tells us what the lamb is. The lamb was a sacrifice. The blood was shed, put on the doorpost of the door. The death angel passed over. You were saved if you had the blood. John says the same thing in John chapter 1. He says, behold, the Lamb of Elohim who takes away the sin of the world. The Passover is the lamb. Now, what commemorates this Passover lamb is a Passover meal that represents Yah's deliverance from Egypt. When we look at Exodus, the Exodus passage, we clearly see that spelled out. But the meal, the Passover meal, commemorates what happened and is the beginning of the feast of unleavened bread. So we have the Passover meal that commemorates the exit from Egypt, but it also is the beginning of the feast of unleavened bread. So the Passover meal and the feast of unleavened bread are tied at the hip. They are one. So I just wanted to clear that up a little bit. But let's look at the Exodus passage. And I'm going to ask for somebody to help me out and read. Exodus chapter 12, I want to split it up in two parts. We just want to go over the commemoration or what the Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread represents. So we're going to read chapter 12. And we're going to read 28 verses. So let's break it up in 14 verses each. Who would like to read the first 14 verses of chapter 12 of Exodus? All right, Sister Sheena, thank you.
Could I also read? I think I heard you call on me earlier. I was making a cup of tea, but I'd be happy to do the second.
Oh, yeah, and yes. So, Sheena, you take the first 14 verses. Sister Ann, you take the second 14 verses.
Thank you.
Okay. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aaron in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, "This month is the beginning of months for you. It is the first month of the year for you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th day of this month, each one of them is to take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of beings. According to each man's need, you make your count for the lamb. Let the lamb be a perfect one, a year-old male. Take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then all the assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it between the evenings, and they shall take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and on the lintel of the houses where they eat it. And they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire with unleavened bread. With unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Do not eat it raw, nor boiled at all with water, but roasted in fire, its head with its legs and its inward parts. And do not leave of it until morning, and what remains of it until morning you are to burn with fire. And this is how you eat it: your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is the Pesach of Yahuwah. And I shall pass through the land of Mitzrayim on that night, and shall smite all the firstborn in the land of Mitzrayim, both man and beast. And on all the mighty ones of Mitzrayim I shall execute judgment. I am Yahuwah. And the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I shall pass over you. And let the plague not come on you to destroy you when I smite the land of Mitzrayim. And this day shall become to you a remembrance. And you shall observe it as a festival to Yahuwah. Throughout your generations, observe it as a festival, an everlasting law."
Praise God. So we see clearly that they had to eat with their shoes on. They were girded up because they had to roll out that night, right? They were moving on behalf of the instructions of Yah. So let's pick up in verse 15 and read to verse 28. Sister Ann.
7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. And in the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and in the 7th day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No matter of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, and that only may be done of you. And ye shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. For in this selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall ye observe this day in your generations by ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses. For whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. Ye shall eat nothing leavened. In all your habitations shall ye eat unleavened bread. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said unto them, Draw out and take you a lamb according to your families, and kill the Passover. And ye shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood, that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and 2 side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning. For Yahweh will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and on the 2 side posts, Yahweh will pass over the door, and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your house to smite you. And ye shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever. And it shall come to pass when ye come to the land which Yahweh will give you, according as he hath promised, that ye shall keep this service. And it shall come to pass when your children shall say unto you, What mean ye by this service? That ye shall say, It is the sacrifice of Yahweh's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel into Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses. And the people bowed the head and worshipped. And the children of Israel went away, and did as Yahweh had commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they.
Praise Yah, praise Yah. So we see the full understanding of what the Passover meal commemorates, from the way the day started to what they did afterwards, and how we see the Passover commemoration meal and the Feast of Unleavened Bread tied together. Again, I'll read just a couple verses of Leviticus 23, starting in verse 5. It says, And on the 14th day of the first month at twilight. Twilight is sunset. It is called between the 2 evenings. So the twilight would be at the end of the 14th day and the start of the 15th day, right? It says, so on the 14th day of the first month at twilight is Yahuwah's Passover. On the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So we see the Passover meal actually being the start of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That's why there's unleavened bread eating with the Passover meal. The removal of the leaven, signifying the removal of sin, in order to be in the presence of Yah. His people had to have no sin to be in his presence. So that's what it signified. So a lot of people mix that up because of the festival, the festive convocation that's going on with the Passover meal and the actual feast and the sunset. So at the beginning of the 14th day is when you start preparing, and all day you prepare. At the end of the 14th day, at twilight, sunset, between 2 evenings, is when you have the Passover meal, which goes into the 15th day, which starts the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And that's why we read the account in Exodus, because we see they ate it, and then that night, when Feast of Unleavened Bread started, is when they left. They had to have their shoes and clothes on when they ate, so they can leave that same night. Praise Yah. Shaman, and then June.
It's Shimon, but that's
Shimon.
okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I've had this question for a while. So now that I'm, becoming to understand and participating in the assembly and observing Shabbat from sunset Friday to sunset Saturday, and I'm still learning. Are we expected to rid our house of all things that have leaven in it?
For Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread?
Yeah.
Absolutely. The practice signifies something that's actually going on in our heart. So we actually have to do it. We've been doing it, and it's a learning curve. Like June and I have from every year we find out something new that has a rising agent in it. One year, I had seasonings that I just bought. There was bought for fishing, and I had to get rid of them. I'm just like, man, So praise Yah. This year we're going to be dwelling somewhere else, so we don't have to get anything out of our house. We'll actually be going somewhere else. So But yes, if you're going to reside at home, you're going to be having the feast at home, absolutely get everything out that has yeast or rising agent in it. And, you know, it's a good practice because it makes us be, it makes us more, it gives us more attention to the details that Yah gives us, you know, and helping us to be obedient in all that he says and do. And you know, although, you know, the actual sin, the process of us understanding it's the sin that we are removing from our lives in order to be in his presence, it was a practice that they had to still do, and we do as well. So we try to eat all the bread, you know, all, you know, get rid of the rising agents, the yeast and other things. And I think there's a list. The women have a list. Maybe June, you can put that on a newsletter of all the things that are, you know, rising agents that you want to get out of your home prior to kind of help you out, Sister Shimon. But yes, we absolutely do that, Sister
So
June.
we're gonna have to eat up all of our Girl Scout cookies or give them away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've given stuff away. We've you know, we've even, you know, at one point, I think we put stuff, it was away, we had a storage unit away from our home. So things that wouldn't perish, we put in the storage unit that we couldn't throw away. Some stuff we just threw away, like we weren't going to stuff ourselves and try to eat everything. We just got rid of it. So, but yeah, it's a good practice, and you can have fun with it, specifically with your children. And I don't know your family makeup, but your husband and children, I guess. Praise Yah. June.
Shalom. We also have unleavened bread recipes on the website too. If there's a variety of different kinds, some for vegan peoples, some that have eggs, some that don't, some that have sweet potato. Well, the first time we did that Feast of Leavened Bread, taking the leaven out of our homes, just the symbolism of it all just hit me, and I could see why the Father, you know, had us doing that exercise. You know, it was kind of profound, you know, and but you're saying that dwelling is where we're currently at when celebrating the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So so it's we won't get it out of our homes before we go to.
Well, we can. I mean, I always assumed that it was where you're going to be dwelling. It says in your dwelling place. You know, we're actually going to be dwelling somewhere else for Pesach this year, but we can get it out of here too. But
yeah, well, my comment was I appreciate the clarification about the Pesach meal versus the Feast of Unleavened Bread, because I often hear it referred to as the Pesach feast because people are feasting at the meal, like because you know, with English, feast can mean meal. So I appreciate that clarification that it's, you know, there's a day of preparation or Passover preparation, but the meal is this kickoff of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And that's why you see the two attached.
right.
Pesach and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So
Right.
It's amazing how you just continue to get clarity and continue to learn as you're in this walk, because that was very clarified for me this year. So hallelujah.
Praise Yah. Yeah, no, absolutely. The more and more we read scripture, the more we have things revealed to us that we assumed or thought or even had told to us that we just believe. Like, it's much more important to read and understand for yourself, so that you can rightly divide. Praise Yah. Sister Marcia.
same with Sister June. I'm super excited that we're going over this because it gives me better clarity of how we truly practice it. Now, I do have a question, kind of like with Shimon. No, we take it out of the house, okay, out of our dwelling. So in times past, we took it out, but then when the Passover and all was ended, then we brought it back. And so is that okay? And like, let's say I have a shed that's not attached to my home. Could I put it all in don't make that face. Don't make that face, please.
Well,
I condemn you for making that face. Stop it. I'm not finished talking. Hold on a second.
Go ahead.
So we put it in a container, seal it, and put it in a shed that's away from the house. Elder Rod.
Yeah,
you can speak now.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of semantics. I mean, the shed is still on your property of where you dwell. So I think the one time we did it, it was away like
I tried, Shimon.
Yeah, I mean, I would just get rid of it to be safe side, be on the safe side, just, not to play around with it. Because one of the things we don't want to do is compromise. And I think, there is a temptation to compromise, specifically when it's something that you have that you want, but it's about separating ourselves from the things that are self-gratifying and to depend solely on him, so I would get rid of it. I wouldn't put it in a shed on my same property, but
I can take it to somebody else's property.
Take it to somebody else's property.
Because because I have like 5 gap, I have preparedness stuff going on over here.
Yeah.
So I can go take it all to my daughter's house.
As long as she's not celebrating Pesach.
She's not.
Praise Yah. Praise Yah. Sister Sheena.
Hi. I wanted to just comment on what we're talking about. I think so I've been trying to observe it. So I feel like it was a while now, maybe 8 years or so. And I see how every year it gets changes. So the first year I just threw everything out because I was I want to keep keep his commands. And then as you continue, you notice that it comes the same time every year, so you can actually prepare. And I think it's the 2-1, right? It's the physical, removing it from our houses, but it's also from us. And I felt every year there was some kind of teaching that was incorrect that I was able to release, or the truth was revealed to me. So I think as we're doing physically removing it from our structured houses, be open, or search for guidance so it can be removed from your body, because there's a lot of leaven or incorrect teachings that many of us grew up with, and it's not until you're actually opening to see oh, I didn't even realize that wasn't true, or I didn't realize that this is actually what it meant, or I didn't realize. And it's similar to when you're going through your pantry or your cabinets and you're looking at it, it's why does this have leaven in it? What is this doing here? Why is this even needed? And I think the same thing is present in our lives. And so I think with these appointed times, it's the same thing. It's things that are mixed in that there shouldn't be mixed in, but we don't know unless we take the close look. And so I also used to do the same thing. So I would if I had a lot of stuff, then I would give it to my brothers or give it to people, but I had to give it to them in enough time so that hopefully they would have eaten it by Pesach. Because even if they're not observing it, I can't take it and give it to someone else, because the hope is that they will turn also. And I don't want to not that it's sin, but I don't want to give my sin to my brother because he doesn't know the truth, or to someone else. So I would if I knew me and Malachi, I wouldn't be able to finish it. If it's slowing down on 3 weeks, and I was we're not going to eat all of this, then it's who can I give it to that will eat all of this by this date. And even if they're not like keeping the appointed times or any of that like that, or like, and so I usually like bake before so I can get rid of like the baking powder or the baking soda, because we have time and it's every year the same time. So it's just like being aware, and not just like the physicalness of it, but like in your own life, like what things do we grow up with, what questions do we really have, that we want to know the truth about, that we want the leavening removed. And I think like when we go into it at these times, like every year, that's what we should be like, or at least that's what I like focus on. Like, let me know what needs to be removed from me. What am I holding on to that I shouldn't be? And the same thing with the appointed times in the fall. It's always like, what doesn't belong? That's what so the physical is nice because, you know, it reminds you of it. If like there's children or other people, they can see the outwardly change. But I think it's both. It's the inward and also the outward.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Thank you. Because that's the ultimate picture. You know, the ultimate picture is that we are, you know, physically removing and going through the exercise of removing something physical that represents something internal. So we are looking, like Sister Sheena said, to say, okay, what's the leaven that this is representing? What am I doing? What am I saying? You know, what do I need to stop practicing? You know, what do I need to start saying? What do I need to stop saying? You know, what do I need to stop doing? You know, and all of these things are relevant to our understanding, because the full picture is what we are doing internally, as that is where the Ruach resides. So there can be no leaven where the Ruach resides, right? There can be no sin. So great point, Sister Sheena, and ultimately what we want to focus on. June and then Charles.
Yeah, very great point. I was thinking, Rod, how you were saying when you had just bought the seasonings and we didn't know that that was one of the ingredients, because it's like hidden, you know, so it may not always be apparent, you know, like, or like, so when we do our introspection, just like Sister Sheena was saying, it may not be obvious what the sin is, like, so we have to look and examine really closely. And that's what I get out of that exercise when you're scouring the ingredients. And just a quick note about preparation. We were discussing this last year in our emergency preparedness group, that, well, you got to make sure the ingredients are kosher, you know, no abominations. But also, I'm now mindful of this time period every year, because I don't want to, you know, how you can buy those big buckets of the survival foods and things like that, you know, be mindful of the leaven too, because, you know, we don't want to store that up and then have to toss it out. And I'm glad that was mentioned about giving it to the person who's not observing, because I mean, I don't know if it says explicitly in scripture, but I kind of felt the same way, that, you know, even though they're not observing it, they should be. And I don't want to cause them to, you know, have something in their home, even though they're not observing it, you know, again, they shouldn't be. So I don't want to dump my sin, you know, onto someone else, not literal, but the picture of it all.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's important. I like that aspect of it. Although, you know, the instructions are for the nation. You know, the instructions are for those that believe in this Elohim. You know, remember, other nations were surrounding them. They ate and did whatever. These instructions weren't for them. So, but I do get and understand that point of view, specifically if there are people that we're having conversations with that are asking us, okay, well, why are you giving this to me? You know, and if you're getting rid of it because it represents sin, what are you giving it to me for? You know, that's the problem, you know, because everybody's not going to look at it like, oh, just free stuff. You know, there are going to be some people specifically, if you've already been having conversations with them, okay, then, you know, well, why are you getting rid of it? Because I know you like this stuff. So you're going to give it to me? This is going to hurt me now? You know, so, I mean, that would be my thing. you know, because I would be inquisitive like that. Well, what do you explain to me why you're giving it to me? You know, when I know this is something you like, you know, and then want to know why you're giving it to me if you've been talking to me about, you know what I mean? So we want to be mindful of those things as well. Those are good points, June and Sheena. Brother Charles.
Yeah, I know how you feel, because somebody else would be hearing you. They'd be like, "What you on, Joe? You trying to trying to give me something for us?"
Yeah.
But yeah, I got a question though, because I don't know if my situation's like nobody else. My wife respected it a little bit. She see Irish. I do honor the Sabbath, so I don't be doing no work, no cooking. We do it all before, but she doesn't totally honor. I mean, you know, she doesn't do it. She's on the Christian side, and also I have a daughter who has both of them. You know, hate to keep saying it, but you know, they both have autism. But one of them, she'll eat whatever we eat, but the other one, she doesn't even want to eat the pork no more. So that's one good thing. But she eats pizza, fries and pizza. That's her only thing. She love that Jules rising pizza, and that's the only thing she eat. And I mean, I don't know if they had that problem in Yasharal a long time ago with children with conditions or people with conditions, but that's the only thing she eats. So that's why I'm dealing with. So what do you do about that?
Well, there is, you can make pizza without having a rising agent in the bread that you make. There are recipes to make the crust and to do the tomatoes, you know, the same way. You know, I believe even the recipe that you use to make unleavened bread can be the recipe you use to make the base of your pizza, and let her try that instead of, you know, Domino's or, you know, Papa John's or, you know, the Journos, the frozen pizza. You know, there are ways to make it a kosher dough. So it requires more, you know, instruction from you and just you making a provision for it. Now, the interesting part of what you're saying is I don't see in scripture the provision for if some of your household is down with it and the other is not, because in the nation that wasn't happening. You know what I mean? It wasn't going to be any, you know, adherence to what the other nations were doing. So in your regard, I'm not exactly sure what you should do, other than you not partaking those meals and having specific food that you eat during that time, being is that you reside in the same place. But let me get more info on that and see what I can find out in that regard, because I've really never even thought about that. And if there's something in scripture I don't know of, and I would like to be able to answer you intelligently on that, brother.
Yeah, I got one more other thing to say, and I'm gonna be out your head, brother. Hey, try to get her home run in pizza. She wasn't going. Try to give her another type of pizza. She know the difference. Right. It's like they are. She is very smart. She no, I don't want that. I know my Jewish pizza. This pizza tastes different, so that's all.
Right. Yeah, nah, you know, it's funny for kids. Kids develop a palate where, I know June and I get excited every time Darius wants to try something new than what he normally eats. He's kind of exploring, you know, different cuisines where normally he wouldn't, you know, or it would be a waste of money. It's just like, you know, now I'm buying one type of food and we're all going to eat it. So now he's starting to, you know, enjoy those things. So, all right, let's move on. We're in Numbers. We left off in we stopped right at the beginning of the understanding of the offerings for Passover. So let's get into that. Let's read the offerings for Passover. Anyone want to read? If not, I will. All right, I'll keep
I'm
it.
sorry, what chapter are we in? What chapter and verse are we in?
Shimon. Yeah, Shimon. The only thing we require is that you raise your hand and not just jump in there. But we're in chapter 28 of the book of Numbers, and we're in verse 16. Cool. All right. Sister Sheena, is that to read?
Yes.
All right.
And in the first month, on the 14th day, is the Pesach of Yahuah. And on the 15th day of this month is a festival. For 7 days, unleavened bread is eaten. On the first day is the Kodesh gathering. You do no servile work. And you shall bring near an offering made by fire as a burnt offering to Yahuah, 2 young bulls and 1 ram, and 7 lambs a year old, perfect ones, they are for you. And their grain offering, fine flour mixed with oil. Prepare 3/10 parts for a bull and 2/10 parts for a ram. Prepare 1/10 part for each of the 7 lambs and 1 goat as a sin offering to make atonement for you. Prepare these beside the burnt offerings of the morning, which is for a continual burnt offering. According to these, you are to prepare the food of the offering made by fire daily for 7 days, as a sweet fragrance to Yahuwah. It is prepared besides the continual burnt offerings and its drink offering. And on the 7th day, you will have a Kodesh gathering. You do no servile work. And on the day of the first fruits, when you bring a new grain offering to Yahuwah at your festival of Shavuot, you have a Kodesh gathering. You do no servile work. And you shall bring near a burnt offering as a sweet fragrance to Yahuwah, 2 bulls, 1 ram, and 7 lambs a year old, with their grain offering of fine flour mixed with oil, 3/10 part for each bull, 2/10 part for the 1 ram, 1/10 part for each of the 7 lambs, 1 male goat to make atonement for you. Perfect ones, they are for you. Prepare them with their drink offering, besides the continual burnt offerings with its grain offering.
Praise Yah, praise Yah. Anything stand out to you?
I think whenever there's talk about which animals you're supposed to offer, I always think about Cain's offering and like why it wasn't necessarily accepted. Like, was he not giving like the best? I always think back about that whenever animals are being offered or livestock. It's which one are you giving? Are you giving the best because of who you're giving it to, or are you giving not the best because you feel like it's not going to be used, it's going to be burnt up?
Well, in regards to Cain, Cain's offering wasn't accepted because it wasn't what was required. He was disobedient. He took the work of his hands versus what Yahuwah told him to offer. And an offering in this sense, other than the grain, had to be a blood offering specifically for the sin. And that's, what was required. There are several types of offerings: the goats, the bulls. You had the grain offering, also called the sheaf offering, is what's waved at first fruits. That's why it's connected to the beginning of months is connected to the beginning of the sprouting of the barley, the sprouting of the wheat. That was what would be waved. And that's part of understanding the count when the moon starts the new month. Also, a signifying factor is that the barley is sprouting as well, not the other way around. So we don't look for the barley sprout, which some people say. We look for the signification of the new season, which, if the barley has sprouted, is a signifying factor, because you need the sheaf, the barley, to be sprouted, to be in its full harvest mode in order to wave it. And that's what we see happen. And then we see the Feast of Weeks, which is 50 days after Shavuot, which is also signified by what we see in Acts, where the Ruach comes down. We see the offerings for that, for the Feast of Weeks. Praise Yah. Sister Shimon.
I always, so with this, with me being new again, with the Shabbat, it's been kind of a struggle because, you know, most of the time we would do all of our like stuff on Saturday and, you know, hanging out, getting together, cleaning.
Yeah.
And I've had to rethink how I do things. And also before that, when I was, you know, observing, I'm doing air quotes, Sabbath on Sunday, we would still do stuff because we weren't thinking right, you know, going out to restaurants or going to movies or doing stuff like that. And I know that we're not in Israel, but think about all the things where it says no one should do work on the Sabbath. And I think about how back in the beginning of our country, when they had laws, a lot of in some places still have blue laws where nothing is open on Sunday. I know there's some places like in Arkansas that nothing is open on Sunday because that's the Sabbath. So I'm like thinking of that, then it's wrong for us to be going places and going out to eat because then we're not recognizing Sabbath because we're having other people to be working and no one is supposed to be working. We're contributing to other people working on the Shabbat, but we're not working and no one in our household is working, but then we're going out and contributing to other people not recognizing Yahuwah's Shabbat because they're working to serve us, and no one in this passage it said no one's supposed to be doing any servile work. Also, so does that mean that we're to prepare all our food and stuff like that before sunset on Sunday, on Friday, that we're going to eat all day from sunset Friday to sunset Saturday?
Yes. So, couple things in regards to that. So yeah, no, it can be tricky when you come out of not honoring the Shabbat to honoring the Shabbat. And, you know, several things in that regard. Friday up until sundown is called preparation day. And we know that in scripture, as the manna fell down, they had a day to prepare because nothing was going to come down on the Shabbat. So they prepared the day before to be able to eat their meals. And in the book of Nehemiah, we see where it was a violation of the Shabbat to be in the marketplace. That's anywhere where you would be spending money. So in regards to meals, in regards to work, it stops, you know, rest, Shabbat means to stop what you would normally be doing. So that means, yes, you should prepare your meals the day before. We do a lot of crock pot meals. We cook things and put it in the fridge and then heat it up on Shabbat. That's okay. But yeah, we don't cook normally unless it falls on the feast, which calls you to prepare. Like for instance, this preparation day for Passover falls on the Shabbat, which allows you to then prepare the meal for the meal that night, which will be Saturday night for this coming Passover. But no, we don't go to restaurants. We eat at home. Or you can eat at someone's house, you know, where they had meals prepared already. But yeah, the marketplace, we don't do it all. In an emergency, if you have to go to the hospital and you have to get gas, all of those things are necessary, but not a normal, we stop doing what we normally do and we dedicate that entire day to the Yahuwah. It's funny because I was talking to my wife about when I first started following Torah, I would call in because the only studies I would be involved with was this brother that used to do studies over the phone. So I would be I would use that time because June wasn't following Torah yet. She didn't understand it, so I was learning so that I could then teach her, and then we started doing it together. But so that Saturday was our shopping time. So I would, while I'm in the market, I would be on the phone listening to the lessons, shopping, getting all our stuff. And I remember one time I said, "Yeah, I'm in the market. I'm gonna get back in the car in a minute." And he was like, "You in the market?" So, and it wasn't in a harsh kind of way. It was kind of in a funny kind of way, knowing that I was new. But then, that's when I started learning all of the things that were required for us to do or not to do on the Sabbath. It is to totally submit ourselves to Yah the whole day, from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. We dedicate ourselves to, excuse me, to Him. Anything that requires us not looking at Him, anything that requires us to fall away from Him, whether it be cooking, whether it be working, whether it be doing other things, are to be stopped and to totally dedicate that time to Him. Praise Yah. All right.
And one other thing, and I was kind of torn about it today because, like I said, I'm new to this, and I have, when you have children and they're in activities, when do they put the activities? A lot of time on Saturday. And like my daughter had to go to an activity today. It was part of her, she's a piano major. So what do you do about that? I mean, obviously I took her because it's part of her grade. How do you address that?
Well, when you say activity,
she plays the piano, and she had to do, it's kind of like not a competition, but where they judge how they play and all that kind of stuff. Sports, any kind of extracurricular activities.
Yeah, the sports is a rough one. Because
concerts, recitals.
Yeah. I mean, are they during the day? Are they normally during the day?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that a recital necessarily takes away from it, but let me think about that some more, and I'll respond to you about that personally. Yeah, those are real things, because when you're making a transition, you want to learn all of the things. Because I know one of the things that we were going to start Darius playing lacrosse at one point. He was interested in it, but the only days they had games were Saturday. So we didn't want to, start that process and then have him get used to something that he couldn't get away from. And, again, we need to look at it as though we get to enjoy Shabbat, not we have to, so the mindset that just because the world is doing all these other things doesn't mean that there are things that we should focus on, because there's 6 other days that He allows us to do those things. When you're already in the habit of doing them, specifically with children, it's a harder transition, and it's one that they have to be taught and understand. But I would say no, but I would say let me check on that. And Brother Rick, if you would like to say anything to that, what is your thought on a music recital to attend on a Sabbath? What are your thoughts on that, Brother Rick? You there? All right. He's not there. All right. Sister Sheena.
Hi, I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I feel like I missed everyone. So no, originally I was gonna say something else, but for Sister Shimon, like, so Malachi was in like swim and soccer and everything else. And so when I was like, we're keeping Shabbat, so sometimes they do have classes on other days. So we'll go on Sunday or we'll go during the week. And he was in soccer and all the games were on Saturday, but the practices were like on Monday and Wednesday. And so he would go to the practices, but not the games. And so, and he had the question, he's like, well, how, why not? And he was like, well, these people are at work, right? These coaches, this is their job. This is how they get paid. And so they have the referees, they have all these people, like, they're working for us. And we're not, other people shouldn't be serving us. We're supposed to be serving Yahuah. And so there's things out there, there's other activities. So now, like, he's in like different soccer where the games are on Sundays, or at his school where the games are during the week. He also does track. And so because you have to look diligently. And so I was looking for teams that the games are either during the week or the games are on Sunday, because it's not like, I don't want him to feel like it's punished, and like, we're not being punished because other people are not observing the Sabbath. This is like our day of rest. This is like our day to spend with him. And so, like, I don't think necessarily these exercises, these times to communicate with other people are negative things. So there will be opportunities for us to do that. And so when there's meets on Sundays, like, Malachi goes and he enjoys them. And when there's meets on Saturdays, like, they already know Malachi is not going to be there. And it was tough at first because, like, if you miss a meet, like, the coach is like, anyone who misses a meet, you're off the team. And so I was like, listen, we're not just missing meets. Like, this is what we're doing, and we're not going to stop doing this. Now, Malachi loves the team. We appreciate it. He enjoys, like, running and, like, being with his mates. But if we have to choose, we already have our choice. And so you can decide if you want him or not, and not if you want him, but regardless of what you say, I get it that everyone's putting in their times, but this is our decision. So is he on the team or is he not? And they know it. And it's been years. So it was like 2 years. They just kept putting him on Saturdays to compete. And I'm like, he's not gonna come. So you're forfeiting these races. And then, like, now, like, they know, like, when I'm checking it, Malachi's name is no longer down for the Saturday meets. But you can find activities to do on other days of the week. And if it's something that they enjoy and they respect you and they respect your children, then they'll make, like, allotments for them to still participate. And if not, it's like, what are you going to choose? And it's not like, like, what are you going to choose? But it's like if you think of, like, Daniel, Mishael, like, there's always going to be choices that we have to make. What is your choice? Because, like, Malachi, like, I know you love soccer, but which one is more important? Like, in your life, what were you created to do? And it's not to be with these kids that you're not going to know in 10 years, right? It's what is our choice? And we're going to have these choices, because I'm having conversations with him, like, we're going to have these choices for the rest of our life as long as we have a life. And the choice is always, who do you choose? And it's not going to be, like, always an easy choice or always a simple choice. It should be an easy choice, but it will be difficulty in making those choices. And what are you giving up? Because you are going to give up something, but who are you getting and what are you giving it up for? So it's not a punishment. So, like, if everyone does these things on Saturdays, I'm not invited. Like, they'll learn you, and, like, they'll see, like, oh, if we're having this, then we know these people aren't going to come. And you'll see, hopefully, that people are changing their lives to include you, because, like, before it would be like, if someone's having a birthday party at, like, Dave and Buster's or something else, you already know me and Malachi are not coming if it's on a Saturday, or you already know, and your life can, like, when people see you living differently, it'll make them start to question, like, well, you used to go to church and it was on Sunday, so why is it on Saturday? Or what does you coming here have to do with work? And so you can, like, share with people and just, like just be open and just, like, know that this is not like anyone is missing out. This is an opportunity to gain something and to gain the time and to gain the rest. that's that. But what I was originally going to say was like about the preparation day. And I think it's like the preparation day is also for us. Like I feel like all of the appointed times have the two meanings. So yes, we're preparing our food and we're preparing everything like before the Sabbath, but it's like, what is the actual full Sabbath? And so we're not just preparing for this day that we call Saturday. We're preparing for the time that we'll be with him and we'll be at rest with him. And so these days that, like Brother Rod said, or Elder Rod, sorry, said we have 6 days to do everything else. And so these 6 days, I think about like the 10 maidens, like, are we using this time that we have to prepare, or are we going to get stuck on this day and realize that we had all this time to prepare and we didn't take the time? And it's an adjustment, and I feel like we're all making those adjustments. But just like, remember, like the preparation day is only not to prepare for the day that we call Saturday, but it's to be in constant preparation for when we will be at rest with him. And how are we preparing? Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Praise Yah, praise Yah. No, excellent, Sister Sheena. I can relate to the track and field. I coached for many years. I ran, all my adolescent years. And a lot of those, a lot of times it's not so much that you can't compete because a lot of the meets are on Saturdays. There were a lot of preliminary meets, but then you have the championship meets where you have the qualifying meets on Saturday. So in order for you to be able to run on Sunday, you got to run on Saturday to qualify for the finals. And, that eliminates, you from that as well. So I'm very familiar with that aspect of track and field. But I think Sheena is absolutely right in that there's always alternatives, to being able to participate, because you want your kids to be, active, and you want them to be able to do the things that they enjoy. But at the same time, you always want to make sure that they understand what the priorities are in regards to Yahuwah. And that requires sacrifice, for all of us. And coming from one faith to another, you learn those things. And some things are more difficult than others to give up. But as the saying goes, practice makes perfect. The more you do it, the more you don't miss it. Praise Yah. But those, Sister Shimon, those are real questions that we have to have answers to. So praise Yah for Sister Sheena. Brother Paul, speaking of athlete.
Shabbat Shalom, brother. Shabbat Shalom. Yeah, I was just thinking about, just thinking about how it's about the cycles. We've been out of sync in the cycle of the Shabbat for many years. Even, those of us that may not have, celebrated any Shabbat of a Sunday, I certainly didn't used to. And I just see it as coming back into alignment with the cycles again, especially the Pesach, coming back into alignment with those designated feasts that were meant to be, setting apart instead of the holidays as they're put. So I think, just as we were saying today, pray to Yahuwah for, help transitioning, pray to Yahuwah to work it out with all of these issues. I know when I was an athlete, I used to basically fight of a Saturday and of a Sunday. I would fight in one city on the Saturday, and then I'll be in a different city on the Sunday. And, I was not observing any Shabbat at that time, but it would be extremely difficult with sports because it's always a weekend event usually, because they want to get the spectators and everything else who are off work and to attend. So yeah, it is a difficult one, but personally, what I've done is stuck to the preparation day, stuck to the Shabbat. And a few weeks ago, I felt led to go out on my motorbike on Shabbat. He said, it's nice out there in the morning. I just felt like I needed to go for a little ride on the motorbike just to unwind and chill. And I wasn't sure whether it was right, but I just felt led by Yahuah that it was okay at that time. And even another Shabbat, I got up and did a bit of exercise, like a bit of punch bag work. And I was thinking, is this meant to be done, not meant to be done? But I felt like, he was okay with me taking that time to just do something, as long as it's not, desiring own pleasures and, not fitting in with the purpose of Shabbat, which is to sort of switch off from the work, really, and switch off from everything else and just have our relaxation and worship and devotion, So yeah, I just say definitely pray to Father and ask him to help with the transition, and things will shift around, just as we've seen with the testimonies today. Things will just fit into place. Something could get shifted to a Sunday, something could get shifted to a weekday. These things will just all fit into place somehow, because, he controls all of that, but praise Yahuah. Good, interesting couple of questions really that have arose from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great comment, Brother Paul. And, I don't think there's anything wrong with riding your motorbike and letting the wind take you on the Shabbat. That's, you see in Yah's country, you know what I mean? But I definitely hear, I hear Sister Shimon, in regards to her children, something that they're used to, and, recital. I think Darius just came downstairs and reminded me of some choir thing he had, and he didn't think he would be able to do it because it was on the Shabbat, but I thought it was in the evening when we went, like that night, but I don't remember. He said he doesn't remember when it was, but he said we went. So, but those are real questions, and I have to fall back on what Sister Sheena was saying, in regards to what are we going to choose, when it comes to us as adults, and we're in a habit of succumbing to our urges versus following Yah and trusting Yah. What are we going to choose? Ultimately, a child is not going to see what you see, but when they're taught those things and living the right way, they're able to fully understand it. And for us, we were blessed in that when we transitioned, our son was a lot younger, but he understood the transition, and he didn't miss those things that he used to do on Saturday, one bit. And it was a transition for me in some events. I didn't know your son ran track, Sheena, but I'm a big track and field fan, and I formerly went to the Penn Relays every year. But I had to rethink that in regards to Saturday was the main day, and just go on the Friday or that Thursday, because it's a 3-day event, and then miss the Saturday event. So those are real questions that we have to have answers to, that we have to make those decisions, make the choice to do what Yah calls us to do. Praise Yah. June, and then Shema, we're going to stop our reading there for today. We'll pick up in chapter 29 next week. June, and then Shema.
Where's that Shema? The Shema.
I don't know.
Praise Abba. I just wanted to give a couple encouragements to Sis Shimon as well. It takes time to I just encourage you to stick with it, do the best you can. I don't know if I'm speaking for everyone, but I can speak for my family. When we started, we made mistakes. You may not do everything perfectly, I used to get a lot done on Saturdays as well. It was the work day for me, actually. And it took a while to restructure that. And, you know, now it's just smooth as butter, I guess you would say. Like, it's just natural. But, you know, it took a while to get there because, you know, we were so conditioned to do things. You know, we had the programming of the worlds. And I wanted to mention too, you'd be surprised what children can understand and comprehend. Like Rod was saying, our son Darius, and Darius, I think he's on here. You could speak if you want, but you know, he embraced, like, we didn't have no issues with not observing Christmas, because this was a big concern to my mother, who is not following Torah. She thought we were. She's like, well, that's what y'all want to do. Don't force that on your child. And in her opinion, he's missing out on these important holidays, you know, as the childhood, you know, holidays. And, you know, I tried to tell her, he wanted no parts of it because he fully understood. He's making an appearance. Because he fully comprehended that it was a pagan holiday, and that he didn't want any parts of it. Are you coming in to speak? Oh, okay. He was logged on in his room. Our family's crazy. My husband's logged on downstairs. I'm up here, and Darius is over there. So, but we're united in Yah. Hallelujah. That's it, honey.
All right, praise Yah. Is that Shema or Shema, Clifford?
Shalom, it's Shema.
Shema, okay, praise Yah.
Yeah. And I just want to say Shabbat Shalom to everyone. This is my first time on the Zoom.
Oh, praise Yah. Praise Yah. Great to have you.
It took me a little bit to get on. I was first on by my phone. For some reason, my computer or me, I don't know, there was a problem connecting, but I got on now. And so thank you, praise Yah, for me being here. I'm very happy to be with all of you. And I also just wanted to offer a little encouragement to Shimon as well. And, you know, from my experience, I have seen that, you know, the more that you really strive to walk on this path with Yah the way he wants you to, you're blessed by it. So, you know, your family, your children, everyone. So even though it may feel difficult in the beginning, or be difficult with your children to understand or feel slighted, you know, initially, that the longer you are in this path and really devoted, that Yah really blesses you, and that the blessings that you're going to get from honoring Shabbat and following it are going to outweigh, you know, what you get from whatever else you may be doing otherwise. That, you know, this is really, it's really real, it's really true, and he will bless you. And if you're really, you know, if you pray for it, he will make a way for you. He will make, you know, other things. I just feel that you'll be really blessed by doing it. And it becomes easier because you really experience the true blessings from walking with him. So just wanted to encourage you in that way.
Praise Yah. Thank you for that encouragement, Sister Shema, and welcome to our fellowship.
Thank you so much. Very blessed to be here.
Praise Yah, absolutely. And Sister Iris will be the last one for the day.
Yes, I just wanted to encourage Sister Shimon, like you. I'm new in this walk, and I have a 15-year-old. She's a athlete as well, and you know, she does a lot of activities. But one thing that I have learned in my short time walking in this path, I do think that children do follow your lead. And my experience has been that as long as I continue to set, my lifestyle. And they have understood, okay, this day is Shabbat, and they're learning. I have a 21-year-old who came back from college and he commutes now. And I mean, he's 20 actually. And then my 15-year-old, and they observe the Shabbat. And when it comes to sports for my daughter, she's a track superstar, she's really good. And she understands, that Sabbath is observed in our home, and nothing is happening because mom is doing her thing. She's observing Shabbat, and it has worked for us. She has not said I have to go to practice. There is a competition on it. It's just not happening. And I think she came to the understanding, I have to follow this rule in our house, this law, this, this is what we do. It hasn't been easier, but again, going to the schools and explaining, what happens on the Sabbath day, on Saturday, Shabbat is what's happening. So children do follow the lead. That's my experience. It's not easy at all. It's not. But slowly but surely, my 15-year-old is coming to understanding. But your children will, as long as you stay strong in your faith, that they see you're an example to them, they get it. So I just want to encourage you, to let you know, I haven't been in this work for long, just maybe a year and a half, 2 years, 2020. So stay strong, sister, and know that if you're doing the right thing, they see you worshiping and faithfully, serving the Sabbath. And we're not gonna get it right, because I have stories to tell you, but they'll come through. They come around. So stay encouraged.
Praise Yah. Absolutely. It's good for. I'm enjoying, hearing the examples from parents who've had experience with it. Sister Iris, Sister Sheena, our family, and athletes as well who've gone through that transition. I see two hands, but I kind of want to end the session. You guys mind waiting till after, or does what you have to say pertain to the study?
I can go after.
All right, Brother Paul is.
Yeah, it's just really quick to the study. It's only a quick one.
Sure.
Just in relation to what the sisters were saying, and specifically what Sister June said, I don't have any kids, but if I had children, I'd look at what we're doing and sticking to Yahuwah's Torah and his commandments, and try and encourage sort of everyone to celebrate each day, celebrate everything that Yahuwah has given us. So sort of taking the emphasis off Christmas, just celebrating the feasts, making a big thing out of the feasts, and really enjoying, doing the righteous things, doing the right things, and putting less emphasis on the pagan holidays, so they sort of fizzle out.
Great job. Absolutely. June, you might as well go.
I was just going to mention that the assembly will, upon request, we will furnish a letter concerning Shabbat for your child if they need official excusal from, activities or extracurricular events. We do have a letter that we issue for those kinds of things.
Absolutely. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, for sure. All right. So we did get through half of the feast offerings. We'll continue next week with trumpets, atonement, and tabernacles, and then try to get into the laws of the vows and the oaths. You remember, this is a regurgitation of what was already been spoken to in Exodus, but this is now to a new generation. So all of these things are being reiterated, so there will be no misunderstanding what the people were to do in accordance to the instructions from Yah. So praise Yah. This concludes our Numbers chapter 28 study. We'll see you guys next week for chapter 29. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat.
Toda Robah, praise Abba Yah, from whom all baraka flow. We hope this video encouraged you today. Don't forget to study to show yourself approved and be like the Bereans who tested everything, according to 2 Timothy 3:15 and Acts 17:11. We assemble every Shabbat and during the week with like-minded believers all over the world, virtually, and sometimes we gather in person for feast days. We have something for the whole family, including children. Discover more on our website at assemblyofyahuah.com, where you can apply to join, give the biblical assembly needs, and find many biblical resources to help you grow in your walk with Yah. To know when we publish new videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Jeremiah 33:3 tells us, "Call to Yahuwah, and he will answer you, and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." Much shalom.